Howdy, folks. Happy Friday, except for those people who are rooting for the San Francisco Giants. Thank God it's Friday. No, it's part of my pre-show. What I'll talk about it, Russ.
Okay.
Go ahead. You do start, and I'll
when you'll talk about your hatred of every team. Got it.
No, not this time.
Let's talk about it, though. Like we know that yesterday that was a garbage call in baseball. Like the guy didn't swing through. Like we get it. But I thought about it after, and I was like, you know what? Baseball has never gotten it right. Never in big games. It's always, and I think we all like arguing about it. I go back to, like, there was a play at the plate with Yogi Berra in one of the World Series, I think against the Brooklyn Dodgers. That's a long time ago. Like, I remember hearing my dad talking about that one. Then me in 75, Ed Armbrister, I happened to be rooting for the Red Sox that year because I hated the Reds. And then, Carlton Fisk gets tied up with Ed Armbrister, no catcher interference.
Okay, I have to say the Jeffrey Mayer call in '96. I was very happy for it, but it was wrong.
Right. And so I just thought about it, and through the years, there's been a lot of these calls, and we do all bitch about it. So I don't think we should be surprised at all.
Russ, I was an usher at a movie theater when Don Denkinger made the call in the ninth inning against the Cardinals. Cardinals are my National League team that I rooted for, and I literally almost punched a hole in the wall at where I was working. I almost got fired because I got so pissed off. I mean, that's that, but this.
I would have fired you too, but
Yes, absolutely.
Thank God you were my manager, Anthony.
My take on officiating that I've had since I was a kid in high school football, we had a almost a Vince Lombardi style coach, and a guy named Manny Lentini, who was that kind of 3 yards in a cloud of dust, and he had all these sayings, and one of them is never put yourself in a position where one official's call is going to cost you a game. And if you play well, then you don't have to worry about that. And I've always thought about that, and that's carried me even through my career as a writer. Now, saying that, I've probably written 1,000 stories about people complaining about officiating, but it's just an impossible task.
It is,
to get it right, and it and I had this thing that I carried around for years, where it was just a general statement from the league office about the state of officiating and all that kind of stuff. And I always ask people to guess when that was put out. And it was like the 1930s. We've been complaining about it forever and a day. And as long as there's going to be a human involved in it, it's going to be wrong. And you've got to, just sort of live with it. I mean, you can complain about it, but, I've yet to see during the course of a game, somebody to change their call, over replay.
That's fair. And I learned that in Little League, Kev. In Little League, we sort of learned that your manager can protest something. So we would go up there, and I remember one time my manager did protest something, and the next day it was like denied. And I realized then you can protest all you want. Nobody's ever changed in the call from that.
No.
Yeah. I mean, there's no greater example of that than the perfect game that was botched by the umpire here in Detroit, where everybody recognized. Now I've even forgot the pitcher's name. Help me out.
Galarraga,
yes. But anyway, everybody acknowledged, including the umpire, that he blew the call. But did baseball go back and arbitrarily? No, of course they didn't. That's just the way it is, and everybody kind of recognizes that, and everybody kind of goes on, with their lives. But it's frustrating for the people involved and for the fan bases. But I still find it amazing how, even though we all know that these things happen, that some people can't just move past them. They just get so angry over them.
Now, Anthony, I am very happy that I don't gamble. I don't bet FanDuel or DraftKings or with a bookie.
Nor do I.
And I'm glad that I don't do that, because last night and what happened in Philadelphia with Tampa Bay would have been enough to have me jump off the nearest high building, because the spread in that game was 6.5 points, with Tampa Bay giving 6.5 to the Eagles. And they were leading 28-14 in the fourth quarter, and Tampa Bay goes for it on 4th and 2 at midfield. they get stopped, and the Eagles go down the field, score a touchdown, and Sirianni, for some unbelievable reason, decides to go for a 2-point conversion instead of the extra point. And that screwed every person that picked Tampa Bay in the world.
I would say here in Philadelphia, we are still trying to figure out Nick Sirianni.
Yeah, I think that's accurate.
We are, I mean, if his stock and trade is unpredictability, it is, but not in a good way. Not in reactionary. Just it's been just a frustrating, not just for the right, and I know this from the writers too. It's been very difficult to sort of get a bead on who exactly the Philadelphia Eagles are and what they're going to do at any given moment. The one thing I can guarantee you is they're not running the football.
Right.
It's the only thing I can predict.
Although
I can predict to you is that they will not run the football.
There's one thing about that. I think yesterday you have to give them a pass because Tampa was the number 1 run team, and pre-game everybody said nobody's running against Tampa. So you knew he wasn't going to run against Tampa because nobody's running. Otherwise, you're right. He doesn't run enough anyhow. But if anybody remembers the guy Norm Crosby, who used to be on the Middle Light commercial as a comedian,
Yes.
me, Nick Sirianni, after the game, his press conferences, he's like Norm Crosby. It's a lot of word salad, and nobody can really make out what he wants to do.
And to make it worse, after they score the 2-point conversion and they're down by 6, Tampa Bay gets the ball with, I think, like 4 minutes left to go in the fourth quarter. They march down the field. They get a first down inside the 10-yard line at the 2-minute warning. And I don't blame them for doing this because this was the low-risk move. Brady takes the knee 3 times and kills the game. You know, if he scores a touchdown, if they kick a field goal, they still win, but there's the risk of turning the ball over.
Also, the risk of him hurting his thumb more, right? And you don't want to do that either. So I get it. But the Sirianni thing I didn't get at the time, except here's the only explanation I could have. Lately in NFL football, since they changed the extra point and made it farther away, there's been a lot of misses. And maybe he just wanted to do that because he was worried that, hey, if we get a miss, that'll happen. It's still a dumb premise, but there were teams that over the last weekend, I think there were 5 misses in the NFL for extra points where it used to be completely automatic. So maybe it was that.
Okay. We're ready to go back.
Ready to go? All right. I'm ready to go.
Do you know what date it is?
He says I'm not ready to go.
He has to look. He doesn't know.
I know what date it is, Kevin. It's Friday, October 15th.
It is right on the money. And you know what tomorrow is?
Nah, we'll deal with that.
75th anniversary of Gordie Howe's debut.
Oh, wow.
Wow. Oh, that's neat. That's very cool.
There it is.
Let's here we go. Anthony. Witness relocation program, Anthony is trying. Here we go. Ready? All right, here we go. Hello. Sorry, bing, bing, bing. Sorry, let me stop that from binging. Apologize. All right, we're good. Now, do not disturb. Damn it. All right. Hello, Hockey World. It's Friday, October 15th, 2021.
I'm Michael Agello, and no, Ack, the Sabres are not winning the President's Trophy.
I'm Anthony Mingione. Congratulations to the Seattle Kraken for their first franchise win last night.
Very nice.
Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
Kevin Allen from Hockey Buzz, and I want to start the show by talking about last night's Tampa Bay Detroit game.
You're at this game, and I really want to talk about it. I'm Eklund. You're watching Hockey Buzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast that comes to you every Monday through Friday. Now with more Kevin Allen.
Kevin, can I ask this question?
Yeah.
When did Dylan Larkin become Joe Louis?
Yeah, for sure.
All right, Kevin, you went to one of the most interesting games of the year.
It was just so highly entertaining, and sometimes you see the bullet coming. We did see it coming in that one. But I want to point out that it was actually predicted. Anybody who reads my Hockey Buzz column, I did a little piece about the Tampa Bay Lightning and getting Jeff Blashill, the Red Wings coach's perspective on it, because he's very good friends with John Cooper, and they're sort of contemporaries. They, were in the American League together, and they've known each other for a long time. And he has good insight on that team. And one of the things he said, not only did he say it to me when I asked him the questions about it, but the following day he repeated it in the morning thing was, when you get them down, that's when they become the most dangerous. That's when he said they just come at you like pride kicks in. And he said, you don't know really, what you're in for until you suddenly get them down by a couple of goals, like in a tight game. Nice. And we saw that in the playoffs, if you remember, and my gosh, not only did that happen once, but it happened twice. They're down 4-1. Tyler Bertuzzi played really out of his mind.
Really out of his mind.
Yeah, Jeff Blashill said today, by the way, this is an interesting tidbit. The coaching staff of the Red Wings rate every player's performance on a 1-to-5 basis on every game. Rarely do they give out 5s. And Tyler Bertuzzi got 5s in all aspects of the game for the last game. Defensive, everything about it, his passion, everything he had going. And, if you think about it, as one of 4 non-vaccinated players, he's faced some controversy, some backlash, and everything else. But anyway, that game, so it's 4-1, and the Tampa Bay start to storm back. And the next thing you know, Detroit's back up 6-3. And when it was 6-3, I was talking with a couple of writers, and I said, they're going to tie it up. I mean, you can just feel it. Like everybody in the building, I think, knew the lightning were coming. and like you could just, it reminded me of, back when Tiger Woods was so good early in his career. And I used to say to my wife when we'd watch golf, the Tiger's coming. You could feel it. You could just see the players. They're all looking at the scoreboard. They knew what was happening by the roar of the crowd. And that's what it was with the Lightning. When they just started, like everybody said, uh-oh. And they just really, really, really stormed back and played incredibly well. And I don't know. It was funny, though. I said after the game, and Blashill didn't disagree with this perspective. Nedeljkovic gave up 7 goals. Now, can you ever say a guy that gives up 7 goals played all right? Because you can last night. He made some big saves. Like it could have been 12, he made some big saves, and he wasn't horrigot.
He wasn't horrible.
Now, Kevin, as you reported, Dylan Larkin, he got checked from behind by Matthew Joseph, and as he turned around and Joseph skated by, he hit him with, I think, a left right in the chops.
It's impressive.
Now Larkin, I guess, is having some sort of medical value. He's going to face the Department of Player Safety, but also having some medical issues.
Yeah, and that's the hearing with the Department of Player Safety is the least of his problems because now he came out, he tried to skate, it didn't go well.
Right.
So now he's going to see a specialist, and of course he spent the entire summer rehabbing his neck. And where did he get hit last night from behind?
In his
neck, right in that area. So I think it could be nothing.
Yeah.
But the fact that he's going back to see that, they didn't say what specialist he's going to see, but they did say it was a specialist. So here we go. We'll see what'll happen there. But boy, I was struck, and it's not only the Red Wings game, but don't you think that that the games have been highly entertaining?
Oh my gosh! And you know what it is. I mean, it's really obvious what it is. It's the players playing with fans, like the energy of a building, like that. When they get it, these are early games, which normally it's like the first couple games are always pretty fun because everybody hasn't played in a while and everybody's fired up about it, and then you get like 3 weeks in and it really starts to hit the dog days. But
why don't fans inspire you to play better defense? Because they get them all fired up, but it's a bunch of goals.
Fans don't cheer defense. They
don't cheer defense. If they want better defense, they should stay quiet, I guess. So
that's what you have to do. So they're crazy. There's no question that the fans are just, you can see in their eyes when they skate out and they hear that roar again that they haven't heard for a while. They're all just like, whoa, it's overwhelming. I mean, it's a fun thing. Like I've been lucky enough to be, in a band and stuff like that, and hear like the crowd, like the people going crazy for you and stuff like. It's really it's addictive. You can't get around it, and it's really just kind of like throws you into it. It was it's fun to. There's so many entertaining games. Like last night, the funniest thing, Mike. Okay, we did after you logged. It was just Mike and I to end the show yesterday. And we went through the games for last night. We went through them one at a time. Remember, we just quickly, and I said who was going to win each one.
Yeah.
You know, I got everyone right last night.
No. You picked the Predators, and I picked the Kraken.
Okay, that's the one I thought I got because I was going through it, and I'm like, I was
nice try, Eric.
And I even said to the point where I said the Red Wings are going to make this one really tough. I said, this is overtime. This is going to be an overtime game. I said the Red Wings are going to make this up. And the first game was Buffalo Montreal. I'm like, well, Buffalo's winning that game, no questions asked. And Mike's like, because you guys are always going all for me in Buffalo. First place right now, guys. First place.
Well, okay. Let me just say,
sixth place was crazy. First place right now.
Montreal. I mean, Montreal is in trouble in the sense that when you have to play Samuel Montembeault, who is a borderline NHL goaltender, and they picked him up off the waivers from Florida. And obviously Price is going to be out at least 30 days. They better hope it's 30 days and not longer, because they didn't play very well. They played well in the first 10 minutes against Toronto. They didn't play well at all against Buffalo. Buffalo got the lead early.
Ottawa,
and against Montreal, and Craig Anderson played pretty decently. It's not sustainable when it comes to the Sabres, but for one night, it was nice for them not to face like the negativity that everybody is expecting. I mean, they're going to be 31st, 32nd place, but
I liked what I saw. I liked what I saw with Buffalo in that first game. I mean, honestly, I mean, I'm not going to say they're not going to be the best team in the league by any chance, but they've got some players. They've got some players that you just don't think they have.
I'm not saying they don't have any players, Zach. I'm just saying that they don't have a preponderance of players.
Preponderance.
Yeah, it's one. Yeah.
What a hackneyed way of saying that, Mike. Yeah,
I do want to say this. I watched a lot of the Ranger Dallas game, and I do think Dallas is better than we think again.
Yeah,
I also think Gerard Gallant is finding that there's it's a little different coaching in New York than anywhere else, and I do feel like he's giving answers that aren't exactly making Ranger fans happy, and he's giving the best answer he can because he's given them before. But the problem is now when you give answers in New York, they're going to be scrutinized, and they're going to be talked about for the rest of the day on talk radio, and so that's what I talked about, the pressure of him.
Yeah.
There's pressure in New York just before you walk into the building.
Well, the Rangers played a lot better in that game than they did the first game.
They did play better, but they
were actually outshot them. And the one thing that struck you hard about Dallas is they've got two great goalies without Bishop even being there. Like if Bishop's healthy,
Khudobin didn't do great in that game.
He did some pretty good saves in that game.
He wasn't great.
He was a game saver at one point.
I think saying great is a little overstating, Khudobin and Ottinger, but.
Yeah. No,
Holtby. Excuse me.
Go ahead, Kev.
Don't you think the Rangers have been a real disappointment? Like I thought in both of their games. I mean, I don't want to overreact. It's 2 games, but I mean, we were expecting a lot out of them, and I've watched them, and they have not been inspiring.
No, the power play is a disaster. They've managed to neutralize Mika Zibanejad, was one of the best shots in the league on the power play. They've managed to do that. That's hard.
And we heard that. Go ahead, Anthony. Go ahead.
Sorry about. And again, you've lost some skill too. I mean, I have my issues with the Buchnevich for Sammy Blaze trade. That's another potential offensive generator that's not there anymore. And I get the reason for why the Rangers wanted to correct certain things for this division, but it feels like an overcorrected team. And while certainly we see the pundits say, they're going to be tougher to play against, and maybe this is something that develops as the season goes on.
Yeah.
But I feel like there's just an imbalance to the Rangers, at least early on.
Yeah, and by the way, Ilya Sorokin did not get off on the right foot for his.
He did not have a good game last night. I'm going to throw that out there. The Islanders only gave up 6 goals twice all last year. That's just the Islanders weren't. That was not a good game for the Islanders.
No, listen, Carolina is what we thought they were, and
except for Anderson, I'm going to say this right now.
Here we go.
He looks horrible.
No, you know what? He was not horrible that game.
No, as a goalie, he is moving really.
Listen, I don't like Freddie Anderson in the playoffs, but he was not horrible that game. I disagree. But what I will tell you is that the Carolina Hurricanes are still hard to play against, and I think the Islanders maybe read too many of their own press clippings in that game and need to bear down, because that's a game where I think there's a reason you can't just automatically put the Islanders as the division leader because of a game like that. Because it's like, wait a minute, Carolina will have something to say about it. And one other thing, I didn't get your guys' response in chat, so I'm going to read you the starting line for the Arizona Coyotes. It'll take me a minute to get it. So
I was just going to say.
Well, I want to go back to the Rangers anyway, just because I'm not done dumping on them. So, I'm doing my best Mike Cagello impersonation.
Imitation is the most sincere form of flattery there, Kev.
Yeah, exactly. Capo Caco, or is it Caco? Capo?
No, Capo Caco, you got it.
You got it.
Anyway,
first try.
I heard the entire training camp how much better he looked this year and was playing with much more confidence. And then, I watched that and it I hardly saw him. You know what I mean? Like he just, wasn't visible. And was it just me or was their performance in that game against the Capitals? I mean, I know it was the Ovi show, but they just weren't a factor in that game.
Yeah, they weren't a factor at all.
So,
listen, Shesterkin last night, had a couple rough ones too. It was just one of those games.
He also had Tenorti playing again. There was no reason to play Tenorti in that game.
I'll tell you, one player I wanted to mention from Buffalo that we were talking about that for a second, just real quick. I know we're jumping back and forth here, but I am really impressed with, and I think a really underrated player on this team is Anders Bjork, who I think is eventually going to be a factor in the league. Like he's going to work. He's going to take him a little bit of time, but he's eventually going to be a serious player.
Well, he's going to get more of an opportunity in Buffalo than he ever got in Boston. I think he has an opportunity to maybe be a top 6 guy. At least he'll get the ice time early on.
Yeah,
whether he takes advantage of that is the question. But yeah, he's got talent, and they're good. As I've said before, Don Granato will get the most out of some of those young players. But the problem is you've got too many Vinny Hinostrozas and John Haydens on that roster for them to have any kind of success. I have to say, another one, your brother from another mother, Carter Hutton, has a .692 save percentage right now after giving up an 8. And Ocho.
This would not be the Buzzcast without a Carter Hutton reference, at least one per show.
Giving up an Ocho to
the end of the day, that Arizona
offensive juggernaut, the Columbus Blue Jackets.
That Arizona team is terrible.
Yeah, they're awful. One thing, just going back to Bork a little bit, it's not like he's not gotten any chance in Boston. Right. Like he's 25 years old.
Sure.
So
he's one of those players that look like he's developing later. Like you watch him sometimes, and there's certain things. He just as the more. I know he's like you say, he's had his opportunities. It's not brand new. Kind of reminds me a little bit like and I know this is a bad name in Buffalo, but like Billy Leno, who was like
no, don't please
who had his moments, who had Bork has these like moments that are very special.
It's not like that. Billy Leno doesn't have the speed of Anders Bork. We could start there.
Smear Anders Bjork with the Billy Leno cancer because
all right, so here's the top line for the Arizona Coyotes. They tweeted this out.
Go ahead, continue.
Dominic Roussel, Jay Beagle, Dmitry Jaskin. That is their top line.
I know.
Wow.
It's a really rough to watch. It's hard. It felt really bad.
So Russ,
I'm saying that's bad, Anthony. Yes.
Russ is saying I took a chance on making Arizona might beat out the Predators.
I did not do that.
That was my surprise in my picks there. I was I'm going to pick one.
Oh, that's true.
You
did that. Yes.
Russ, I've got a question for you.
Good, Cap.
Yeah, that Jeff Blashill brought up yesterday about development of players. When he started in pro hockey, he said we were still sort of in the era where the prime of a player's career was considered to be, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, and started moving there. And he goes, now we look at 23, 24 as entering the prime career.
No, he's right. He's 100% dead on. Yeah. And I think that's because of the way training is, the way video has become, the way, again, 15, even when I first started the draft, right, just covering the draft, guys weren't working out the same way they're working out now. They may have worked out to some degree. They may have worked out hard. They didn't watch their diets the way they did. They didn't watch their sleep cycles the way they do. Like, that's all. They don't stop doing that all year round now, and that never used to be. And
Well,
so I do
and even
that.
goalies too. Like,
yes,
goalies
are athletes now.
Well, yeah, but I think the age difference as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we got Vancouver versus Philadelphia, and we got a 23-year-old and a 25-year-old in goal.
Yeah,
that's still an outlier, though. That's still an outlier.
Well, but Spencer Knight is supposed to be the guy.
Yeah. But now you're talking about 3 out of there's 20. No, but
Nedeljkovic is going to be Detroit's guy. He's 25.
Yeah. Well, 25. That's about
the age. 25 used to be when you started. No, but that's Marty Brodeur.
So. I can tell you that when doing Hockey Prospect Radio for all the years we did, 25 was sort of the age. 24, 25 was the age that we sort of used to say that's when you'll see that guy really start to come into his own a bit. And really be able to break into the league and whatever. And if you think about it, some of these other guys do get a shot early.
Right, Ross? For
goaltenders. Some get a shot early, but many of them go up and down for a couple of years still.
Now, Russ, two observations from the Ottawa-Toronto game last night. I'm convinced that Henrik Lundqvist was not on the panel on MSG. He was wearing number 31 in the Ottawa Senators goal because there's no friggin' way that was Anton Forsberg.
Anton Forsberg he had a shutout going.
He faced 48 shots and only let in 2 goals. Yeah. That's one thing. And Kevin,
I'm happy for him. I'm happy for Anton for the guff that he's gotten from several members of this panel, and maybe me on occasion. I was happy to see that performance out of him.
For sure.
Okay. The other thing was, Kev, was Peter Mrazek this much of an injury-plagued guy when he was in Detroit? Because last night in his first game, he makes a nice left pad save at the buzzer at the end of the second period, and basically could not get up, limped to the bench, and could not come back. And he's now out with a groin injury. And he was out last year with a broken thumb for a long time. But, this is the worst case scenario for the Leafs because they were depending on him to split time with Campbell. And now Campbell's probably going to have to carry the load for, who knows how long.
Yeah, Mrazek had bad luck with that thumb injury last year, for sure. But he wasn't injury prone. His problem in Detroit was he was just such a cocky guy that he alienated absolutely everybody, and he was not coachable. And his team, his teammates didn't like it. And he really, I'll give him a lot of credit. I remember Don Waddell telling me the story when he called Carolina, he was very contrite. And basically, he didn't even use his agent. He called. He goes, hey, I'm not even talking to my agent about this now. I'm going to negotiate with you because I just want a chance to show people I can play and I can be a good teammate. And that's what he basically said. I'll come there and I'll be a model citizen. And pretty much was. Did everything he could. I know Rod Rendemore liked him. And they had a lot of trust in him, as much as we, as a panel, sort of made fun of him at times, thinking he wasn't good enough.
I saw 2 warning signs on him, Kev, last night, and you probably saw this in Detroit. The goal that went in off a skate, he immediately after it goes in, he points at the skate, he starts flipping out a little bit, and you could tell that that's probably in his head. And then later, like Mike said, time was running out. I think when the Leafs, the other guys scored the 3rd goal. Formenton, right? That was an Alex Formenton goal. And Mrazek was so far out of the crease, he wasn't quite back in the crease yet. Didn't know where he was. Didn't have his glove at the right angle. Moved his glove at the last second, and that's where Formenton got him. Now, Mike pointed out, hey, he probably thought the Leafs would ice it, and this period would be over. But as a goalie, you can't guess on that. You have to be ready for anything.
Well, I just have to say this because we talked about this when the Chandler Stevenson goal counted in the Vegas game against Seattle. And last night, the goal was Chris Tierney. He turned his skate. He moved it forward. Gee, it looked like David Akers, Anthony, in terms of whether it was a kicking motion or not. But I'll just say this. Okay, if you're going to allow that now, allow that at the end of the season and allow that in the playoffs. Have some consistency. If all of a sudden that goal in January is a no goal, then stick it, NHL, because have some consistency. If you're going to decide you're going to call things a certain way, then keep it the same way.
I mean, those two were consistent calls.
There they were, and that's fine. But,
Yeah.
I like I said to you, Russ, if Nick Ritchie is in the crease in January and he turns his big size 12 foot and it goes off of that and in the net and they say no goal, then that's horse crap because then it's inconsistent.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that it's funny. I saw them a little different. I thought the Stevenson thing was a definite kick, and I was the only one I think who felt that way. But I
didn't feel that way.
I mean, there were so many angles you could look at. It was one of those really weird things because there were certain angles you looked at and it looked like a kick completely, and there were other angles where it didn't. So
I thought it was. I honestly, when I saw the replay, I thought it was a kick and was genuinely I was surprised when they called it for the goal.
That judgment call is so hard. Like, and I complain about this all the time, and in the NFL, how even with instant replay, and they have experts sitting on the panels of those shows, referees and stuff, and they don't get it right.
Right.
Half the time in terms of they don't agree with whatever the ref. And the same thing on kicking motion. You could have this entire panel, 6 of us, and we could all watch goals. And if we did a secret, I bet we'd all be all over the board on those because
what is the term even? Like, why are we so vague? Why do we say kicking motion?
It's too hard. How could you do it that's different other than
he try to kick the puck in? Did he try to kick it in? That to me is what
but it's still impossible to know what he's trying to do. I mean, it's the same thing in the passing in football. Like when it was his arm going forward.
Right.
Like it's the exact thing.
Exactly like that. I think
it's impossible to tell on that. I mean,
if you're skating, Kevin, like Chandler Stevenson is skating, his foot goes forward and kicks the puck. That's what happened.
But
you could say he was just skating.
Last night, Kearney was standing at the edge of the crease and he turned his skate and he moved it forward.
There is a way to do it.
Yeah.
Puck goes off the skate.
You can angle it.
Yeah. No. What I'm saying is, if a puck goes off your foot or your skate, it's no goal.
Right.
That's all you got to do, and we'll have total consistency because you can see that.
I'm okay with the deflecting off of skates. To me, the thing has to be: was the skate moving? If the skate's that's where it is. Like if your skate is stationary and you let it deflect off your skate, that's okay to me. But if your skate is moving, then
we would still have problems. But that would be better.
I agree.
It would be better, right?
I think Kevin's call is correct. Or I think if it's, I'm all for deflection goals as much as anybody and inadvertent ping pong kind of goals that happen. But I think it's the one way you get at. I think Kevin's right. If it goes in off a skate, it might be that if it isn't a shot off it. Yeah.
Although, wouldn't you want to know how many goals we have a year off that? Because we may need those 75.
Kevin, I usually agree with you, but I think this
you might get some agents not happy about that, Kevin. Exactly.
I usually agree with you. I think this would be
did we all watch the Washington Rangers game?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So we can talk about that. The Kreider goal. Yeah. Like that is my favorite shot in hockey. When the stick and it just goes up high over the shoulder, and we used to see that all the time.
Yeah, there were guys on every team that could do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And now we see it less. And when I see that goal, I want to stand and raise my fist in the air. I love that goal.
See, actually, you bring up a good point, Kev. This is why I told Ranger fans to ease up on Kreider because he's the only guy in the team that will do that.
Yeah, that's such a skilled play, and that's a play. It's the same thing on the backhand goal. I grew up watching in Toronto.
I always write about the backhand too. If prospects use the backhand, I always write it in my report because I feel the same way. You can't just do a backhand willy-nilly. There's an art to it.
About one of the best backhand goals of the season, which we saw last night. Ekblad's goal to tie the game.
Oh yeah, I saw that. Yeah,
I didn't see that goal, but when I was growing up, there was a guy in Toronto, Errol Thompson.
Oh yeah.
Errol Thompson had by far the best backhand that I ever saw.
And I think he had a straight stick, Kev. He did
have a straight stick. And that's why we lost the backhand because of the banana curves of the 1970s. People stopped using it and then, they stopped teaching it. And then I've told this story before, but I was actually at a practice where Paul Correa, and of course it's Paul Correa, was working on a one-time backhander. Now, I mean, it was awesome. Like I sat there and I always, used to joke that, I don't do practices because I've seen so many of them in my life. No. But I was just mesmerized by him just getting guys to serve pucks and it's trying to get on.
Eric Lindros had a very flat stick.
Yeah,
I remember his backhanders were absolutely just really good. He was outstanding on a backhander. But that's the key. Yeah. It's having, I think, the curvature of the stick has made it.
Which is interesting because Patrick Kane, I think Patrick Kane's one of the best backhands in the league right now, and he has a pretty curved stick.
Yeah, I've seen him use it.
Yeah. Yeah, well, you can do it. I'm just saying that was the cause and effect for why they stopped sort of, training that. But, the one-timer, I've just had this discussion with Bernie Nichols for his book. We were talking about the one-timer, and also we had a long discussion about it on Tom Ladle on a podcast, because I always bring up when I started covering the league, only like 1 in 6 players could one-time the puck. And Tom Ladle talked about he couldn't do it at all when he showed up in the league. Yeah. And it took him, like 3 or 4 years till he got comfortable with it. And finally, like he remembers he can tell you that I can't remember who the guy was who fed him the first pass he ever got. And he scored a goal on it. The first time he was ever willing to try it,
Because it's so embarrassing if you miss it.
The one thing I've noticed, and I've noticed it when I'm writing and describing guys, is that I think the one-timer has about 95% replaced the slap shot. Once in a while, you see a slap shot, but most of the time now it's a one-timer.
Yeah,
and maybe it's because of the composite sticks. I'm not sure.
One thing. Oh, go ahead, Ian. Sorry.
I'm just saying there's something to be said for that. I think Russ is on to something there with the composites.
Yeah. One thing before we do the Central Division here, the big contract announcement of the day. Charlie McAvoy with an 8-year contract, which we heard a little whispers of it yesterday.
We talked about that a couple days ago.
But 8 years at $9.5 million. And Kevin, this is a seed change for the Bruins, because this is the first contract where we're the Bruins. You've got to take this much. You can't make any more than David Krejci. You can't make any more than Patrice Bergeron. Well, he's making 9.5. Now the watermark is Charlie McAvoy.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, he's a really good player. Make no mistake about it. But it's amazing to me how the forwards have pushed the defensemen have pushed the envelope on salaries. You look around and not just for the top players, but those middle run guys. That's the ones that have driven Mike crazy. That they're paying a lot more to than they should. And even McAvoy, I'd say he's an $8 million defense, but I know it doesn't seem
they're
much
paying
money,
for more future success on this one. I think they feel like, he's only 3 years into it, right? This is his 4th year. I think they feel like we could see there's an arc here that he's going to get on, and that's why we're getting him now.
And at a certain point, that contract will age
not be a big deal.
Well.
Yeah, and Adam Fox is probably going to end up getting that much on his next deal, and a couple others. But here's the thing, Kev, is that you've got that stratosphere right now of Makar and Hughes and Darnell Nurse and Seth Jones in the 8 to 9 million, 8.5 to 9 million range, and then you've got Pulak at 6.25 and Parayko at 6.25. Now they're not the same. They're not in the same league as those guys, but there's a big wide gulf between the stratosphere and those guys. So I like a guy like Morgan Riley, who I've been talking about because of the Leafs. I don't know where he fit. To me, he fits somewhere in between, but it doesn't seem to be an in between. It just seems you're either going to make 9 or you're going to make 6.
Well, let me ask you this. So people said at the time when it happened, Drew Doughty, 11 million is crazy. He got 4 points last night. Like, I know the Islanders are touting their defensive pairing because they only cost 12 million, but they're never going to have a 4-point defenseman on their team. I mean, there are certain guys that you have to pay for that and can take over a game. And Doughty absolutely can take over a game offensively and defensively.
Oh, yeah, I watched that game. And you know what? Here's something I wanted to bring up, and it's kind of interesting. I think it's a big topic, but just hear me out. And then we do have to get into the Central. But I really do believe that because we had these 2 shortened seasons, these 2 seasons that were like kind of bizarre, both obviously bizarre, right, in their own ways. we have this phenomena going on that we don't really know what these teams are. Like we have a concept, we sort of know where they are, but we don't really know. Like there's development has happened without us watching to a degree. Like, you know, some of these players are getting older, some are getting better, some are getting younger. I mean, obviously no one's getting younger. That makes no sense at all. Sorry, but some are getting older. But you know, there's this. But I think that what's happening is that we're seeing some things like LA is better than we thought. You know, like they are, and you know, they might this one game again, but there's definitely. Yeah. I think there's something to not having like these normal seasons that makes this year really, really unpredictable, like wildly unpredictable. You know, I don't know.
No, I think that's fair. I mean, I do think there is something to that. I do think I mentioned it yesterday, and I heard it in Galan's voice. Well, it's early in the season. There's plenty of games. So I don't think the same urgency exists game to game that it did last year. And I think there's going to be some weird things as a result, like playing, you know, goaltenders the way they're using goaltenders. Like
right, and the only urgency that does exist are teams like Buffalo or teams like, you know, like LA.
Well, Pittsburgh, you know, teams that are down there,
teams that have not done well recently, you know, to show that they're really
right, and that's true. I mean, again,
that's the urgency that we have right now.
Yeah, Pittsburgh lost a tough one in overtime, but they're grinding out points until Crosby's back.
Okay,
you got to give them credit for that.
Okay, for the Central, why don't we do what Act did?
Yeah, we're gonna do that again. So I'm gonna say, can we all agree on Arizona?
Well, Anthony said no. He had Nashville.
He's got Nashville there.
Yeah, he said Nashville 8th.
Although he wished I wouldn't have read those line combinations. That one line at the top line.
Right.
All right. Well, but when if he gets back on, we'll ask him.
I think he dropped out, but if you know he can justify that. But I have Arizona 8th and I have Nashville 7th.
Me too.
Same.
All right, so we're good there. We only have 16 to deal with. All right. No, and although you know I was kind of impressed with Nashville last night. I thought they played pretty well. We'll see where it goes. Right.
This is where it gets hard.
This is where it gets hard right away. Number 6 for me is St. Louis.
Me too. Me too.
St. Louis, okay. And it's tough to put them there because I don't.
It's really tough for me because I don't even believe it. Like,
yeah.
You know, I mean, I put them there and I say I don't really think they're 6.
They just won the Stanley Cup. Like it wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, and I just don't know where else to put them. So
yeah, I'm with you. Anybody who else has 6? Where do you have? Who
Russ?
Mike?
6th, I have Chicago Blackhawks because I don't believe in their defense. And if Seth Jones isn't going to be like the Seth Jones of a couple of years ago, they are really in trouble. I would give Seth Jones the benefit of the doubt that he'll rebound. But I don't like their defense, and I don't like their team defense. And I don't like their, you know, bottom 6 that much. So I do think they have a fair amount of scorers that's, you know, easy to be excited about. But that doesn't always win you hockey games. So
okay.
I go along with St. Louis. The thing I'm skeptical about, they have not been the same team since Pietrangelo left for Vegas. I don't know whether they're ever going to be as good as they were. That you know, they have some good players. I like the Buchnevich acquisition, but their defense isn't as good as it was a few years ago. And you know, Binnington, he didn't have a great year last year. Russ, he had a good year, but he didn't have a great year. And I think he has to be great for them to make the playoffs. So if he's just good, then I think they're going to finish in 6th.
Yeah, he's kind of all over the map. Now, number 5, this is where you guys are going to laugh again, but at me because it's what you like to do because I'm never right, apparently. But number 5 is where I put the Winnipeg Jets.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
And I know a lot of people are gonna like everybody's high on Winnipeg. Everybody, and you know, and I did this before. All these were placed before Winnipeg lost their first game. This has nothing to do with that. This was placed before that. And it's not even about the goaltending, which you guys know that I'm not as big a Hellebuck fan as you guys are, but that's fine. I just think that the Jets, they just feel like their top players. You know, some of the guys like they could fall off to me, and everybody's expecting that not to happen. Like they finally got their defense together, but is their offense going to stay really solid? I just don't know. And I'm not a big Paul Maurice guy, I have to say. But that's where I put the Jets.
Anthony had Chicago 6, and he has the Minnesota Wild 5th, winning the wild card, winning one of the 2 wild cards.
Okay.
I've got Winnipeg 5th, not winning the wild card.
You have Winnipeg 5th?
Yes.
as well.
Yes, I have them. I believe they're starting to tune out Paul Maurice. I am not that bullish on their offense like somewhere. I think it's taken a little bit of a downturn. I don't know if Perfetti will make the team. He may not. There's not enough flash on that offense to make me think that they're going to get enough sustained scoring all season. I like Hellebuck. They've improved their defense.
Yeah, they have.
I think there's things missing in that team. I just do.
Yeah, I have the Dallas Stars 5th. I'm not, there's health question marks. I mean, there's no doubting Heiskanen is one of the best defensemen in the league. But, we'll see if Sagan plays the entire year. We'll see if Ben is successful the entire year. Pavelski is 38 years old. I mean, could he drop off? There's a lot of question marks there for me with the Stars.
Interesting. So,
yeah, I couldn't agree more, Mike. I agree with you. That's what I struggle with is, and I silently root for them because I like Jim and Boness. I like all that. But I feel like Sagan is going to have a monster year in order for them to put it all together. And I think Jamie Benn, he hasn't done it for a long time now. Like, he's not the Jamie Benn of old. I think we just keep waiting for him.
He did it in the playoffs. He did it when it counted, Kev. But
he did. But even then, it wasn't every game.
No,
but he did. You're right.
Double hit. Double hit. That's
really
hard.
Like their goaltending. I'd like to try Dallas' goaltending. That's the tough thing about.
But wait, when you have 3 goaltenders, do you have one? You know what I'm saying? So you've got Khudobin.
I like all of them. I like all 3 of them. I mean, I'm a big Khudobin fan. I'm a big Holtby fan. Like, both those are 2 goalies that I like the way they play, and I like them in keys. They're both big games.
Actually, Holtby played good until he came out of the game. Like, he was good.
He made. Did you see that one save he made?
He was really good.
He made that one save. I mean,
so I felt like Holtby was locked in.
That's where the Flyers screwed up. Like, the Flyers had a chance to get him, and they didn't. Like that to me. That's
fair. I mean, the Flyers, they did the same thing with Van Diesbroek and Richter that time, and they went
grab Holtby as their backup. Things would be a lot different in Philly. All right, number 4 is where I have Dallas. So I'm along the same lines with you guys as far as you guys have Dallas in 5, but I've got. So I'm. Who you have in 4, Russ?
I have 4. I have St. Louis Blues because there's a few developments there that I think we have to talk about. One of them is right now the temporary emergence of Jake Neighbors, who I did get to see in the CHL Top Prospects game, and he does have a hell of a shot, and he's a really good skater. And so he is starting to add some offense for them, which is a nice thing for them. Jordan Kyrou is definitely adding offense for them. Jake Wallman has done a great job, and I watched him play college hockey, and he really just needed to get a little faster, a little physically stronger. He has done that on defense. So I think they filled more holes than you think. And so I do feel like they could be they will make I feel like they will make the playoffs. And they still have Torrey Krug, Ryan O'Reilly. It's not, they added James Neal, maybe they'll get a little bit out of him. I do feel like St. Louis has retooled the right way now. It's taken a few years, but it always takes a few years for cup teams. Very rare. I mean, Tampa's a rarity.
Yeah, I know. So who you have it for, Kevin? Who do you have it for?
I have Chicago Blackhawks.
So do I. Kev, I think they'll overcome. This is a team that's going to need to maybe trade for a defenseman or 2 at the deadline, but their forwards are unbelievable. So much so that they're probably going to trade Dylan Strome, as Zach was talking about.
A lot the last couple days.
And I think they're going to have to play Lankin in about 30 to 35 games to take the some of the pressure off of an aging Fleury. But if Fleury plays like Fleury did last year, then he's going to be, he'll be great.
Yeah, no, and I agree with Russ about their defense. It falls off quickly. But I also think that they are going to make moves. I mean, that I've already sort of heard that they've been poking around trying to find, a veteran defenseman because they know that their issue is. But they're very strong up front, and I think there's a renewed enthusiasm. I think bringing Taves in are back and is ready to go is got them all excited. So I just like their chances of getting it done there. And Patrick Kane, we all know what a hard-working, driven guy he is. So we'll see how that goes.
I like Kirby Doc. I mean, Kirby Doc with 5 shots in that first game. You know, that it's just, you know,
Doc was really good.
He's a fun player to watch. Like they have so many, and who scored that we were talking about yesterday. The guy who scored Kubalik is just a way better player than people want to think. Like, you know, Kubalik is a really good player. I mean,
he's a very good scorer.
He's got one of the best top 6s in the league on that team.
Yeah, for sure.
I had them at 3. So
okay, number 3, I have the Minnesota Wild. Definitely a playoff team. The only thing I'm concerned about, and maybe it's wrong to be concerned about it, is now that Kaprizov got paid, whether the motivation will be there. He's got all the talent in the world, but sometimes when a player gets paid the big money, it takes a little time for him to sort of like, you know, get jump started. So I'll be curious to watch that. But they're talented throughout. They're big. You know, guys like Foligno and Greenway are tough up front. Their defense is pretty good, and the goaltending tandem is solid. So I think they're a playoff team.
Yeah, I have them third as well, and I have Winnipeg at second.
So do I.
Okay, you and Mike are basically the same.
Yeah, we are. But I don't know. The only thing I wish about Minnesota is I don't know who the flag carrier is on that team.
Yes.
Yeah.
I haven't figured it out yet because it's not Kaprizov yet, and now Ryan Suter's gone and Parisi's gone, and I think that's probably addition by subtraction. I think they had sort of, those guys had been around too long, and I don't think everybody was buying what they were selling. So I think it was good that they have new things, but I don't think that's fully been their identity is still sort of. We got to wait and see what happens.
It feels like it's Sturgeon to me. Like
it is Spurgeon. That's who it is.
Not Sturgeon. Sturgeon.
Yeah, he's a really good interview, but he does not strike me as a flag carrier.
But the teammates talk about him. That's the thing.
They
like him, but I think they like him. I'm trying to think of a good example of a guy that everybody likes, but he's just not a guy that can, stick his stick up in the air and say, "Come on, boys, follow me."
Yeah.
I mean, was Wes Waltz that much more of that guy? I mean, they used to love Wes Waltz, but I don't know. I never saw him that much. I think it's Jared Spurgeon, but the number 3 I've got is the Dallas Stars. What I do like about them is they played the Rangers like that last night with no Blake Como, with no Jason Robertson, and Hakanpää played with a broken finger, and they still managed to win that game.
Mm-hmm.
They do have a lot more talent than I think we want to let on, and their goaltending's good. They've got a choice of 3 goaltenders. Now, I don't know if Ben Bishop will ever get in the mix, but if he does, that could be a big deal. Now, number 2, I have the Wild, and like we were saying, I do think Spurgeon's the guy. I think their top line of Kaprizov, Eriksson Ek, and Zuccarello is as good as the upper teams in the league. Maybe it's like the 5th or 6th best line. And so they can live off of that. And then if you look at their top 4 in their D pair, Goligoski, Spurgeon, Brodin, and Dumba, that's still very, very solid.
Yeah,
it's more solid than a lot of teams in the league. They do have good goaltending. And like Mike said, they have, you have like toughness in Ryan Hartman, who could score a little. You got size in Greenway, guys who can play in the crease. This Victor Rask, I think, has, revitalized himself.
Right in his career, yeah.
Yeah, and then like on the bottom pairing, you got a guy like Bukestad, you got Freddie Gaudreau, who's got potential, and then Fiala's on the 3rd line right now, and Marcus Foligno's there, who has sort of rebounded too. I think none of them are sexy names, and so I think it's easy to count out the Minnesota Wild. But I think as a team, I think Guerin's done a nice job of actually making this a team again, and not just a lot of high-priced players fitting in with other players.
Anthony had Dallas 4, St. Louis 3, Winnipeg 2, and I think everybody has the same team at 1.
I don't.
Yeah.
I don't. I've got Minnesota at 1, Colorado at 2.
Okay.
You're at 1?
Minnesota 1, Colorado 2.
Okay. Yeah.
So and the only reason, and this is the thing about Colorado, they're crazy talented. I mean, you watch them play, they're ridiculous. I mean, even watching it every time, I know I'm going to hate that pick. Colorado's going to win.
Then why make it?
No. Here's why. Because Francouz is hurt again. Okay, and Kemper.
Well,
Kemper's good.
You're starting to sound like me because I was waiting.
I'm saying Kemper's good, but there's going to be, and he really is good. And I do think he's as good as Grubauer. I'm not going to say he's not. I don't know yet. We don't know yet. It's hard to really make that statement.
Grubauer had a really good game yesterday. Grubauer was excellent.
Everybody's making the statement that he's better than Grubauer. It's just, we give him time, like, come on. Like, but at the end of the day, I think the Wild, who played them really tough they played Colorado really tough last year, has what it takes to like win out the regular season. Now, I think you can get into the playoffs. I don't think the Wild have a chance against Colorado. Like, I think Colorado.
Oh, no, I do. I think I picked Minnesota to come out of the West.
Well, they might. So, but at the end of the day, I don't think it's a crazy pick to say that Colorado, even though they could win the Stanley Cup, is not going to win the division.
I was looking forward to Kevin scolding me for falling back on my usual criticism when it came to goaltenders, but I think it's a reality with Kemper. If Kemper gets hurt, Colorado's in deep trouble because now more than ever with Francouz hurt, they're really gonna overload. They
still have to trade for a goalie. That's the reality.
Yeah, I mean, plus we don't even know for sure if Kemper's the answer. Like, he's been good for a poor team. He's never faced the level of expectation.
Yeah, they could be making a trade at the deadline for sure.
Yeah, I honestly feel, and I like Kemper, but I think that if both Francouz and Kemper are healthy, that Francouz would win out that job eventually.
Oh my, no way, please.
Francouz is really good. Like, when he got hurt, but like years ago, he was killing it. Mike, I mean, since he's been injured a lot, he hasn't played well. But obviously, he hasn't played. But when he was injured, he was killing it.
He had a 20-game block at the end of the year 2 years ago where he played well, and then when they had to use him in the playoffs, he was, and that was before he got hurt.
Right,
he was pretty good.
He's not 100% proven. He's not
100% proven either. But it's not like Kemper is just to me. Kemper is so much better than him. Like, I think that they actually have something in him. I mean, I listen to Kevin Weeks, so I really trust Kevin Weeks too as a goalie. Like, Kevin Weeks is one of my favorite guys to listen to. He said the same thing that I'm saying right there. Like,
Mike, you have breaking news?
I was going to say Dylan Larkin suspended 1 game by the NHL for the left cross to the mush of Matthew Joseph.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, there you go.
Speaking of that, I better run.
All right, thank you very much.
Yep.
Now, the chat room wants me to mention the Sabres versus Coyotes tomorrow. I'll mention it because I think Shane Wright will have an interest in that game.
They've been advertising it like crazy on the NHL Network, right?
Well, no, because Shane Wright's going to watch it because he wants to see who looks worse and which team is going to possibly draft him.
He wants to see what team he doesn't want to go to.
He might do that too.
Buffalo is better than Arizona. There is no two way.
That's not saying much, Jack.
It's not saying much, but I'm just saying that Buffalo is better.
I think you're probably right. I do think you're probably right about that.
They're better coached. They're better. They have more players that want to do something. They have more players that want to prove themselves.
I mean, Shane Gostisbehere is on the second pairing in Arizona.
Half of the Arizona Coyotes roster belongs in the hockey convalescent home.
And the fact that they're going with Hutton is just insane. Like
Hutton's going tonight. He's the guy they're going with.
He went in the first game and he gave up 100 goals. Like, why are they thinking? I mean, listen, he's going tonight.
Okay, Eck.
Hutton is going tonight.
This was yesterday.
I mean, he gave up 8 goals last night.
No, then I guess maybe
here is their other goaltender. Here's their other goaltender, Karel Vejmika.
Oh, so he probably is going tonight then, yeah.
Oh my gosh. To be fair, I'm not. I mean, listen, who knows what Columbus is about? Because they played Arizona last night. But Max Domi in that game, he was amazing. Like, I don't know. I watched a little bit because I was really curious to see how bad Arizona was. So I watched about 2/3 of that game, and Max Domi that's the best I've seen him play since his best of days in Montreal.
Here's the craziest fourth line in hockey. It is the Coyotes. It's Ryan Gazingle. That's what he's fallen down to. Larson, who I guess it's the Larson that used to be with the Sabres, Mike. Yep. And then Louis Eriksson.
Okay, here, Russ.
My God.
Does he actually have 2 functioning legs? Can he actually skate?
No.
He's going to be playing.
He's skating on 1 leg. Karel Vejmelka, not Vejmika, but Vejmelka is a 25-year-old from the Czech Republic who has never played a game in North America. He played 35 games in the Czech Extraliga. So
Wow.
Russ,
It's not even the Czech Elite League. Wow.
yeah. So I mean, this is. I mean, they're not.
You know, I got to give them credit. They went out of their way to find somebody that they could really underpay and never play. They did.
And
they did that really well.
They did that really well.
And the funny thing is, Russ, he's making more money than Carter Hutton is.
Yeah. Andrew Ladd looked like he was on the third line. He's a third liner for them. And Clayton Keller can't be happy about it because he's on the third line with them.
Play Andrew Ladd on defense for all it's worth. I mean, they have like they I don't even know what they're doing. Like there's so much confusion. Clayton, you feel so bad for Chychrun. Like I feel so.
Oh yeah.
He is doing everything he can. He's like there's one goal last night where you just see Chychrun like diving to the left, diving to the right, trying to. He's putting such an effort in, and there's just it's like there's no help.
It's Ladd, Christian Fisher, and the almost retired Phil Kessel third line.
They have 14 count them, unrestricted free agents.
It's insane.
I know they are worse than the expansion team. They're in a worse situation than the expansion team because
they're a bigger embarrassment than the Buffalo Sabres.
Oh, no, absolutely.
Missing a lot.
They're not even close. It's not even close. And like you say, Buffalo is not doing themselves any favors, but it's not even close. They're all right. So let's talk. I'd like what we did last night, Mike. Let's quickly go through the games tonight. Let's think what our thoughts are on them. We'll go do it with Russ too, and then we'll be out of here.
Well, Russ is going to swear off of this because he doesn't want to contribute to the delinquency of.
I'll mention one game. I don't like to do this. I admit it. I don't.
Okay.
What don't you like to do?
He doesn't
like to predict every game for every night.
All right, you don't have to.
Okay, good.
Pick your game.
Just turn your chair around.
Pick your game. Russ, pick your game of the night, not the outcome, but just the game that you're the most interested in.
Well, I mean, I'm going to be.
Are you too good for us, Russ? Is that what you're saying? Are you too good for us?
No, I'm not saying.
What are you doing? What is this about?
This is about exactly what Mike said. I don't want somebody to just go with what I'm saying and bet that way when I think it's foolish to bet every single game every night. And so I don't want to talk about every game every night.
I'm just saying our feeling of the game. Like I don't think
that's fine.
You want to be betting.
You don't know what lunatic is out there that's taking our word that they're going to pick a game. And then they'll say, well, Mike Agello told me to pick the Seattle.
Yeah, I don't want to be in that position, but obviously I'm going to be at Flyers Vancouver and the Flyers, Ristolainen is not playing, like I said yesterday. I felt like he wasn't going to.
Yeah,
so now Sealer has filled in for Ristolainen, even though he's on the third pair. Justin Braun is on the second pair with Travis Sanheim.
Of course, we're going to screw up all the pairings. I love it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You can't just screw up one. You got to screw them all up.
It's Vigneault. Classic Vigneault. Sure.
Yeah. And so they did send Jackson Cates down. So there's so much. I can't tell you. There hasn't been a game that I thought that was opening up for a team in the regular season that was more screwed up than this one in the last couple of days. Just all the players moving up and down and hurt and not. And I really have no feel for how the Flyers will do. But I got to tell you, the Canucks are probably, chomping at the bit.
Yeah.
Well, I know what game I'm probably going to watch the most, and that's Blackhawks Devils, because the Devils have been so hyped up this year that they're the dark horse. Okay, I want to see that. I also want to see the Blackhawks. I mean, they got poleaxed by the Avalanche. So
really, 4-2. It was a close game.
The score was not reflective of how one-sided it was. They got a couple goals late, but it was not a.
Well, the first 10 minutes was 3-0. You take away that, they won the game. I mean, it really was not.
It's like saying the Leafs won the second two period, the second and third period 2-0. But Ottawa scored 3 goals.
I know, but to sit there and say that they dominated them is ridiculous. That wasn't the case.
Okay, well, that's just my opinion.
Okay, so you think Chicago is going to beat New Jersey tonight?
I don't know. I don't know. I
have no problem making my picks. And
go ahead. I'm just saying.
Do not bet based on me. Unless you want to lose, because that will be fine. Chicago, I think Chicago does not beat New Jersey tonight. I'm going to say New Jersey is going to win that game just because it's a home opener, and I can see overtime. I think it's Chicago is a good team. They will be up there, but I think New Jersey tonight's going to come out with something to prove. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Vancouver, Philly. I agree with Russ that this is such a hard game to feel because of all the stuff that's gone on with the Flyers. Like the Flyers just not playing until tonight has been a disaster for them. They really needed to get a game in. But by now, because they're thinking too much, they're doing too many things. But I think that they'll win tonight. I think they will find a way to win because that is typical of Philadelphia Flyers hockey, is that when things are just so chaotic, they tend to come out of it somehow. Anaheim, Minnesota. Minnesota will take apart Anaheim tonight because Anaheim won their first game, which was really good. And they played incredibly well, but Minnesota, this is their opener, and the Minnesota's they're reloaded for bear. So that's you can do whatever you want to. No wagering, not expedition, whatever. I wash my hands a bit. I don't bet hockey. I don't think anyone should bet hockey. It's a ridiculous sport to gamble on. But yeah, some of our sponsors are probably betting sites. So anyway, all right, remember, folks, without the buzz, it is just hockey. I'm so excited to be going to a game tonight. I will talk to you later. I'll be tweeting from down in Philadelphia. Take care. Remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey. Have fun.